the voice just repeats certain numbers. Do you know about so-called number stations?
Number stations, yes. I did a podcast episode on number stations. Number stations are relatively new. They started, I believe, around in the 1970s. There are examples going all the way back to the 1940s, but they didn't really explode in popularity until the 1970s. Number stations, for those who haven't heard, are on the shortwave radio bands. I mean, you can go to your local electronics store and you can buy a shortwave radio receiver and you can tune into these number stations. And you listen to it, and at the same time of the day, every day, sometimes several times a day, sometimes several times a week, but always on a regular schedule, you'll hear an electronic voice saying 1753. 1753. Actually, it's sequences of 5 numbers because it's encryption. Some of them start with a funny little musical cue. There's one out of Great Britain that starts with a song called the Lincolnshire Poacher. This little musical cue, and then it goes into the numbers. There's one called Yosemite Sam that comes out of the southwestern United States that starts with, "I'm gonna get you, varmint," from a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and then it goes into repeating these numbers. So people have always wondered what the heck these were, and people have used triangulation again to try and zero in on where they're coming from, because you can use a direction finder, a radio direction finder, and you can track down where the station's coming from. The Lincolnshire Poacher is coming from the British military station on Gibraltar. And the Yosemite Sam one is coming from the White Sands Missile Base in southwestern United States. So they appear to be military. They're probably being used to transmit instructions to intelligence operatives somewhere in the world. And the reason this is such a good way to do it is because it's very low tech. And the communication goes all the way around the world. It goes through walls. It can reach people wherever they are. Wherever they are. And they can just go to any local electronics store and they can buy a receiver for these. And there's been 2 cases in the United States that I know of where Cuban spies were arrested for espionage. And part of the evidence against them was that it was found that they were listening in to a Cuban number station called Atención. And they were entering the numbers into a laptop computer, which was decrypting a message and giving them their instructions, whatever it is they were supposed to do that day in a James Bond kind of way. But yes, number stations are a fascinating one. And it's great because that's a conspiracy theory that actually turns out to be true. So thank you for that.
All right, thanks.
Hi. As a person living in a country where a lot of the daily TV intake is being subtitled, I was not at all surprised to see a botched translation from such a difficult source material. But my question is, has this in any way changed the way you do research? And do you use the internet to find
Yes, it has.
people? And do this help at all, or do your readers or listeners just add more conspiracy theories?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it certainly alerted me to the fact that you need to get native speakers involved whenever there's a foreign language. And a great example of that recently, there's a phenomenon in China. Has anyone ever heard of the Baigong pipes? Supposedly there's this cave, few people, supposedly there's a cave in China that's in limestone, and it's got these pipes, these metal pipes, manufactured metal pipes, sticking up out of the ground. Something like 150,000 years old is what the pipes have been dated for. They're sticking out the top of the mound. There's a lake nearby, and they're sticking up in the beach. And the popular story, as it's believed in China, that this is an ancient alien construction project from 150,000 years ago, where they were building some sort of an elaborate plumbing system. Now, it's embedded in natural rock that is older than 150,000 years. It's the metal itself that's been dated to that. And it's the kind of thing where, gee, nobody has any natural explanation for what it is. Well, I got a hold of some Chinese articles from Chinese newspapers and from some Chinese geology journals. And it turns out that good Chinese scientists have studied this and have come up very conclusively with what the answer is. It's something that's found all over the world. We've got a lot of them in the United States that I found examples of. It's basically the fossilized casts of trees In this case, it's fossilized bamboo, which is why the pipes seem to be quite long and straight. It's just a cast, this material that collected around the bamboo. It then died, got buried up in flood rubble, and over the eons, these fossilized casts got washed down from the canyons into the basin where they are today, what later became this cave. So they actually are much, much older than 150,000 years. They were dated to that by a dating method that would be valid if they were metal that had been heated and forged 150,000 years ago. Well, that's not the case. They're millions of years old, and they're fossilized bamboo casts. That's much more interesting than saying, oh, it must have been an alien construction project. And there's no way that I would have gotten that information if I didn't have authentic Chinese-speaking researchers helping me out on that. Yeah?
Yes, hello. Is there any information that indicates that the two Italian brothers may have given us false information?
No, it's certainly possible. But there were so many other people in the room when they were doing this. It was corroborated. Sometimes they were tipped off by other radio observatories around the world. They say, hey, we're hearing something strange on channel 1000. Tune in and record what it is. So, yes, it's possible that they were hoaxing. I think it's more likely that they were wrongly interpreting what they heard. I think they did record what they say they recorded. They just interpreted it, I think, badly. Okay. There's a movie about these two guys that you can find chopped up into 5 or 6 segments on YouTube called Space Hackers. It's in Italian, it's subtitled in English. But it's very interesting. It gives all the details on these two brothers. There's a lot of film of them working in the observatory. You can see all the other people who were in there with them. Like I said, university professors, people from Italian intelligence. I don't believe that they were hoaxing us. I think that they were honest in what they were trying to do. They were all self-taught also. Everything that they figured out about the Doppler effect and how to calculate speed and altitude were things they figured out themselves. They even figured out one of the American space frequencies so they could listen in on the, would have been the Apollo, no, the Mercury flights. The way they figured it out, there was a picture of Alan Shepard being taken out of the capsule when it was in the water. And their father, being a medical doctor, told him, I think he said it would be 8 inches would be the distance from here to here, or here, something like that. They used some metric on the human head, and they compared that to the antenna that was on top of the capsule. And by talking to some radio friend of theirs, they figured out that they could calculate the length of the antenna and therefore the frequency of the signal that it was designed to optimally receive. That was kind of the hacker mentality that these two guys had. They were very clever.
Okay. Any more questions for Brian?
That means everyone knows everything or nobody knows anything.
Brian, is there anything you need from the audience?
Like I said, I think it would be great if anyone who speaks Russian would like to give a shot at listening to that tape for me and seeing what you could find out. Otherwise, what I need you to do is go to skeptoid.com and subscribe to my podcast and send money today. I also accept beer.
Okay, well, I think what we learned is that critical thinking is very important. Know all the facts before you come to a conclusion.
You will have more fun finding out the facts than stopping at the popular conclusion.
Okay, so we will. Thank you very much. I hope you want to give your feedback on the website. What do you think about Brian's lecture? Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. And thank you.